Prepare for the crime and investigation event of the new year with the premiere of 2 groundbreaking new series on A&E. Each week, hit the streets of the Big Easy with a dedicated team of detectives as they search for answers and justice in the gripping new series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. Then, join an elite Mexican task force in their pursuit of American fugitives hiding south of the border in Fugitive Hunters Mexico. Homicide Squad New Orleans, new episode tomorrow at 9, followed by a new Fugitive Hunters Mexico at 10, part of a crime and investigation event, only on A&E. Watch now on the A&E app.
Nothing brings us together like Eggland's best eggs. Always so fresh and delicious. Plus superior nutrition like 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.
For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Jalissa Davis from Waynesboro, Virginia. Jalissa will get a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Marcia Chatelain. And I croaked in the middle of that. Yeah. When it's time to change. I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Marcia Chatelain, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Criminal Intent, Season 7, Episode 7, Self-Made.
I don't know if I see Shill leaving his West Village townhouse to shoot his protege in a Brooklyn ghetto.
Yeah, but the guy is desperate for a comeback. If Kira exposed him for what he is, I can't see that guy surviving humiliation like that. I know guys like this.
I know you do.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and host of Crime Writers On and Netflix's You Can't Make This Up podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, Kevin.
And rounding out our panel is our special returning guest, Pulitzer Prize winner Marcia Chatelain. Hello, Dr. Chatelain.
Hello, this is the greatest honor of my life.
The greatest honor.
The greatest.
Nothing good better has happened to you.
No other awards.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
Absolutely not.
Not long ago, we had guest Maggie Freeling on, and we got into a discussion about whether it's Pulitzer or Pulitzer. And where do you come down on this? What's your official position?
I'm Team Pulitzer.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Pulitzer.
Shocking.
But I don't know. Is it a regionalism? Is it like my Midwestern accent coming through?
No, I mean, I think it depends on if you knew
The
Joseph Pulitzer. The Pulitzers, if you knew them, how did they?
I do not know them.
Yeah, so this, of course, was for your book franchise, The Golden Arches in Black America. I got it on audiobook. I'm assuming there were no spelling errors. I can't attest to that. But in addition to the Pulitzer, you won a James Beard Award for the book. Now, we Top Chef fans know that James Beard Awards go to chefs and restaurants, but a lot of us didn't know they also recognize all different kinds of media related to food. So I'm going to give you a chance right now to win a real James Beard Award. What is the best meal you cook?
Oh my goodness. Well, this is like a before or after kids, because I am now a hide vegetables mom. You know what I mean? One day you think you're a literary genius, and the other you're just trying to quietly blend zucchini so your kid will have maybe something that looks like vitamins. So my best post-kids recipe is the zucchini cottage cheese protein pack mac and cheese.
Oh,
wow. Okay.
My earlier life was a lot more glamorous. I could do a rack of lamb. I was going to do, I would do Marcus Samuelson's lamb lasagna. Those days are over.
Yeah.
So if you want mushy vegetables in boxed mac and cheese, I'm your woman.
Now you're just trying to disguise a pea. That's all you're doing.
Exactly.
Marcia, of all the franchises, which two cops are your favorite Law & Order detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
Okay, so this is a little hard because I think this is all terrible propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen every episode. So I'm always been, every time you ask me, I'm a Goren and Eames kind of girl.
Mm-hmm.
I did a rewatch of SVU recently. I can tell you who I like the least, and that is Stabler. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
I kind of can't believe they wrote a character this unhinged and this problematic ever.
Right.
So Goren and Eames, they always keep it pretty above board, although Goren tampers with evidence a lot. I still think he's my favorite.
Yes.
And who is your favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order District Attorney Prosecutorial Team.
Oh, the prosecutors they're all terrible. They overcharge and they don't know what they're doing. But I'm a Courtney B. Vance kind of girl. What was his name again?
Carver, yeah.
Carver. I guess here's the problem with this show. The acting is really bad. Mm-hmm. So Carver was the only one who consistently gave me like beleaguered prosecutor. What are you guys doing? This is the law. It's better than the...
But then he would go right along and sign that
But then he'd be like, fuck it,
yeah.
I guess we have to violate the Constitution.
The one guy who knew better.
But he's the best looking of the prosecutors, and so he wins.
Nice. I mean, there's no reason to not judge on that basis.
Marcia, may I introduce you to Elena De La Garza?
Oh, yeah. Fair.
All right, now let's take a look at the first half of this episode, Criminal Intent, Season 7, Episode 7, Self-Made. Well, in the opening exposition dump, we see young Detour Heath flee a drug stash house on a bicycle after shots are fired, then later hiding something in a stereo speaker. Gritty novelist TJ Hawkins introduces low-level publishing assistant Kira Danforth to read her short story at an open mic night. Then, sleazy book agent Gareth Sage offers to represent her and her novel about being a black woman in a white world. Later, renowned but washed-up author Lionel Shill takes a phone call from Kira at a fancy restaurant. Cut to Kira's apartment, where an unknown person shoots her in the stomach.
Saturday night special. Older than the victim.
Small caliber. Poor girl bled to death.
Looks like she's got synthetic hair extensions. They've been singed. Hands burned. Looks like coils.
Stove's electric.
Stovetop burns on the victim's hands lead detectives Goren and Eames to believe Kira was tortured for information before she died. Maybe it has something to do with the aroma of really good pot that was stolen from Insider's stereo speaker. They learn Kira's boyfriend, Detour, worked at an animation studio, but gather that he was only kept around because he scored the quality weed. Bobby and Alex find themselves in a really bad neighborhood where Detour has just been roughed up by the drug dealers he ripped off. The detectives move to the theory that Kira was tortured to recover the weed, but the shooting was a separate act. Although she was unpublished, Kira had a tight relationship with Hawkins. The writer, known for his hardscrabble background, makes a tough guy scene in public when the detectives question him. Shill mentored both TJ and Kira. He hasn't had a bestseller in years, but his hardscrabble novels should get him back on top. Eames learns Kira's agent Sage has a reputation of sexual harassment of young black female writers. After a bullshit search warrant, Goren discovers a strand of Kira's hair extensions in Sage's car, along with makeup for a woman with dark complexion. They arrest the book agent. All right, Criminal Intent usually opens up with a whirlwind of characters.
Wait, that was the first half?
That was the first half.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it to Criminal Intent for jamming a whole lot. Yeah. And then when you watch it the second time, that whole first 3 minutes, every little bit, all of it is in there.
Right.
Well, when you go back. But maybe the best detail from that opening is that when Lionel Shill is in this fancy restaurant, he receives a phone call, and the waitress brings him a cordless phone.
Cordless phone on a tray.
On a tray.
Yes.
Okay.
Like it's the third meal, the third, course. Having a moose-boosh of telephone.
So when I was watching this episode, I looked at the looks, the cordless phone. I thought this was from 1997.
Yes.
This is from 2007.
Which is when the iPhone came out. Like everyone had a Nokia thing before that, right?
So this episode was out like after I had graduated college. And in my head, this could have been 1975. It's like when you watch the Brady Bunch and you're like, is it 1960? Is it 1970? I don't know. There are so many like horrible early 2000s aesthetics, the going out tops that Kira and her friends wear, like the Real Housewives women with the giant jewels at the boobs, like her going out top. I know she like read an article that says it's appropriate to wear this to the office and then go to happy hour. Like that part, but the cordless phone on the platter set me into existential dread because the phone is so giant and the platter is so beautiful. And also, who calls people at restaurants?
It was decorated with little leaves, right? Like little autumn leaves.
I can imagine the chef with like tweezers being like, we got to put microgreens around this giant ass phone. What the fuck?
Yeah. Zach from Saved by the Bell.
The only thing he didn't do was like pull the antenna out like that. And it was like, all right.
Loved it.
Now, I love that the writers of this episode gave the characters some like really great names. So the author is named Shill. The agent is Sage. The major publisher is Cypher. And the publishing assistant's name is Paige. No, Paige didn't like throw anybody? No, okay. All right.
I got it. It was very clever.
Oh, well, I was watching this episode. So episodes that involve race and Law and Order are such a bad idea that I obviously have to work through this in therapy because I'm like, why am I now wanting to discuss this episode? This episode feels like the two students who went to half of my classes. Like they took an intro to AFAM class. They showed up to half of it, maybe got a hard C-, and then they got into a writer's room. And they're like, you know what? I have this old notebook from this class I took. Let me get every trope of anything I've ever heard about Black people and dump it into an episode of Law and Order.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where's my Emmy?
And I learned the word token, so let's use that too.
Oh, Jesus. That one, so there is like a conceit in this that she's like the only Black girl in this group of white girls. And so she thinks it's hilarious that she's a token. What kind of self-hatred is that? But it's also,
this is because to remind everybody, because if on her desk, Goren, who I'm surprised he didn't sniff this, finds was it a Subway token or a token?
A token by the photo.
That all of her white friends gave her.
I get it. She's the only African American in these photos.
She had a sense of humor about it.
Mm-hmm.
She said she thought this was hilarious because she probably looked at it and said, hilarious.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't lick it. It's also a very bad reference to Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Like, I was footnoting the hell out of this episode. I'm like, so this kid read the Cliff's Notes and then decided to drop this element. No one in their right mind takes this kind of racial abuse from their loser friends, especially if they're talented enough to get the job that Kira did. Also, Kira, I love you. Your acting is terrible. Please, everyone just go home.
So, all right, end of episode.
Yeah.
And done.
So this pretty much sets the tone near the beginning here where Goren and Eames asked Paige about like the people in Kira's life. And she says,
he was really Black.
Really Black. You mean obsidian?
No.
Goren fighting racism with his vocabulary.
Yes.
Good job.
Put you down. Well, she says that he's street because he drives a 10-speed bicycle and he works as a cartoon animator, as your toughest animators do. You always see a guy in the street saying, hey, you want a little Mickey Mouse?
So Paige as a character is like the white woman in The Office who thinks the relationship to Kira is closer than it is, who's a pain in the ass. But there's an opening scene where Kira's supposed to go to some like moth-like spoken word salon thing.
Yes.
And her boss gives her no less than 4,000 pages to copy edit.
Yes.
And she says, I know tonight's your big night, but this proofreading needs to get done. We're supposed to think Paige gets it done in a night. Can we test Paige for drugs, please? Like, how much speed is she doing that? She's going through like 7,000 pages of a manuscript in the same night. That was so weird.
It's like the evil stepmother trying to keep her from the ball, right?
It was total ripoff Devil Wears Prada. Like, that came out in 2006. This came out in 2006. That boss was Miranda Priestley. Hence the car ride up with the big glasses. It was just like an homage to The Devil Wears
I missed
Prada.
that. I thought she was like a broken down, busted Ariana Huffington. I could not catch that reference. Okay. Also, this is like 2007. There are computers. Like the way that she hands her all these papers.
You need to spell check these hard copies.
You need to go through with a red pen.
I want this in the typing pool immediately. What is going on here? But yes, point well taken. The boss sucks.
Yeah. Before we get into this, Marcia, I just want to point out that you are a revered professor of Africana studies and history, and you picked this episode, and I think it's because you want to get me canceled.
I mean, I think the show does its own work. Yeah.
Well, here's one of the parts. Goren and Eames go to track down Detour, so they return to Kira's neighborhood, talk about like how horrible it is. Like she's like this Ivy League girl that would move back here. Later they call this the ghetto. Why? Because when you look around, it's trash day. That's like, it's the projects. No, it's just like every neighborhood, but their barrels are outside.
Well, also, Kira's apartment's kind of nice. It's got a fireplace, and I'm thinking this place probably rents for what, $3,700 a month
today. Probably more.
It's an interesting kind of like Brooklyn as a dangerous neighborhood tropes. This is the thing that's interesting about Law and Order as a show for the New York episodes. For the show that's set in New York over a long period of time, just the kind of shifting geography of like what actually happens to New York. So like when they go to Harlem, that can mean a number of things now versus, Harlem as the ultimate reference in different strokes.
A loft. It could be a loft with white people. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was like, but her apartment's kind of nice.
Totally.
Yeah. And they call it a Brooklyn ghetto, but you know what I see on the streets? A lot of Ford SUVs. It's just, and they do like these little different things to sort of demonstrate the poverty of the neighborhood. And I love this because the very opening shot is two guys playing chess, but they can't afford a rook, so they're using a white Bic lighter.
Oh my God. A chess set, you can get them at dollar stores. What is happening?
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, Eames is like stunned that Kira would graduate an elite women's college and choose to live in a depressed neighborhood with her boyfriend. Somehow she's surprised that a low-level story editor with $100,000 in student loans can't afford to live in Manhattan.
Eames, where do you think she could afford to live in New York City?
Right. Where do you live, Eames?
So weird.
Yeah.
I think that they are trying to indicate that it's a ghetto. But
quote ghetto.
Quote ghetto. They say they say it. But like it's like they're like, okay, this is what we really have to do to sell it. We need to select a certain amount of actors for the gathering crowd. But what is the casting call particularly for that scene? It's like we just need a bunch of black actors to be there, and it's like, Mrs. Pulaski, we don't need you for this scene yet. Maybe the book signing scene, you can come back. But
it's daylight. Poor people also go to work. It's shocker. I know, like in this moment,
do they play chess though? Do they really?
I know that in this point in like our American political journey, we just like hate every group. But like the idea that there are this many people just hanging early in the morning. Also, why is someone getting shot like this so early in the morning? Like everything about this doesn't cohere to what New York is like.
Those guys had a lot to do in their day. They had to get that done first. By the way, I don't know anything about marijuana, but what I saw, that was not enough to kill anybody over. That's just like a good rave. All right, let's take a look at our cast.
It's our very special guest star,
Mr. Peter Coyote.
Yes.
Yay!
He's playing washed-up novelist Lionel Shill.
Au contraire. I knew he'd be delighted to meet my dear friend Philip Green, who just won the Nobel. TJ showed up about 9 o'clock.
He's best known for roles in films like Erin Brockovich, A Walk to Remember, Cross Creek, Jagged Edge, but most of us know him as the mysterious government agent in E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
No. I know him from A Walk to Remember, Kevin, which you went over very quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was the stereotypical mean preacher dad who had to be like learn to come around, like the bad boy in town who loved his ailing daughter kind of situation.
Who is that author? I've never seen his stuff. What's the guy?
Is that Nicholas Sparks?
Nicholas Sparks. I worked in a bookstore in college, and middle-aged women would buy them by the, dozen. What is it? Is it like romantic? Is it weird?
Yeah. It's like he also wrote The Notebook. Like it's like
Never
sappy.
seen it.
It's like women fantasy of bad guy who's actually secretly good inside.
It's something that's perfect for Peter Coyote, I guess. Yeah. I know him definitely from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Adjusted for inflation, E.T. is the 7th highest grossing film of all time, and Peter Coyote got top billing, even though he didn't appear until the 55-minute mark.
Wow.
He was the
only name at the time, right?
Yeah, Dee Wallace and him, and then it's like you don't get to Drew Barrymore until like 15 cast members in the... because they're kids. But he has had a great career as a voice-over narrator, even won an Emmy Award for it.
And book reader, by the way.
Yeah, okay, yeah. In the 1960s, he was an activist. He was part of the Diggers, an anarchist improv group.
Okay.
That's like yes and no to capitalism.
When I hear improv, I just think of those like stupid black square boxes on stages, and they always have like their stupid fun bag, like here's some giant underpants and sunglasses and scissors. Like, I am not a patron of the improv arts.
Yeah, I'm one of the people. When I think of improv, I think of things that aren't funny that people pretend are funny.
Yeah. Peter was also part of the politically minded San Francisco mime troupe.
Did you say mime?
Mime, yes.
Okay.
They had a hard time getting their voices heard, though.
You know what? I'm uncomfortable, but I support.
Well, we do have a couple of Hey, It's That guys.
Hey, it's that guy.
Who is playing book agent Gareth Sage?
And call the Today Show. Tell them if they don't take my call, I'm going to go right to Zucker.
Oh, that is Parker Stevens.
No, Rebecca.
It's Fisher Stevens.
Well, Parker Stevens was married to Kirstie Alley.
Oh,
that's right.
He was in the Hardy Boys, but again, I'm just showing my age. Yeah.
Yes, Fisher Stevens.
Yes.
From Succession and many other things.
Yeah, 5 Law and Order universe appearances. He gets the trifecta. Some of his more recent roles do include obsequious PR hack Hugo in Succession, Marvin on The Blacklist, and Chuck on the 1990 CBS drama Early Edition. But he also played Ben in the movie Short Circuit. Remember Short Circuit about the robot who comes alive? No disassemble number 5. He was one of the guys who tried to no disassemble number 5. His character was Indian American, and he played it in brownface.
That's right.
So
I forgot about that.
Here's the thing. It's like C. Thomas Howell, who did Soul Man in blackface.
Right. But that served the plot, right? There's just no reason.
Yeah, sure. It was integral to the plot. It shouldn't have been made. But like this choice in Short Circuit, did we need this? Was it necessary?
No. He says that he would not do that today.
No
right?
shit.
Yeah. No, disassemble my career. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's lucky. I mean, I someone was praying for him because it's such a bad choice. But you know what though? It's more consistent with the history of Hollywood than not for actors to do that. And that is the part that should be most sobering to all of us.
Yeah. He is a prestigious producer of documentaries, including Tiger King, and he has an Academy Award for the documentary The Cove.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Is Tiger King prestigious?
Well, no, but he made a lot of money on that, I'm sure.
Have I told you guys my Tiger King story?
Shit, no.
So when we lived in Oklahoma, we were going to go to a proper zoo. We were driving and we saw the billboards for the Tiger King shit. So we thought that was the zoo. So we get there and we're like, why is this zoo so fucked up? And then we realized we were in an illegal animal park. And then when Tiger King hit during the pandemic, it was familiar to us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, The Cove.
It's so hard to watch.
Yeah. So if you're into whale abuse and the last podcast from Serial wasn't enough for you, check this out.
Jeez.
I saw a preview for The Cove and I was like, nope.
Well, we have a repeat offender.
Repeat offender.
Returning as someone not trying to rape and murder Olivia Benson this time is Pablo Schreiber.
I didn't know she called. Philip was holding court telling stories about smoking pot in the White House with Allen Ginsberg.
And also back is Victoria Dillard.
I got a little hush money, but he said he'd bury me.
Who we last saw in Briscoe's Swan Song episode COD. She played Janelle on Spin City.
I loved that show. It was so funny.
Yeah. And Janelle's first on-screen role was just being topless and bathing Eddie Murphy in Coming to America.
A film I watch at least 5 times a year.
Well, watch for her in the tub. I know I did. We also get to see somebody before they were famous.
Before they were famous.
Can you tell me the name of the actor playing Kira's brother, Shane?
No.
Okay, well, that is Emmy nominee William Jackson Harper, who is Chitty on The Good Place.
He sells a little ganja. But with his bike and cartoons, he's too much a kid to get into real trouble.
He says that paradise for him would be tacos, video games, and my lady. His lady just happens to be Ali Ahn, who was in The Diplomat and Agatha All Along.
Okay.
So when he says just hanging out and eating tacos, yes, he does mean Mexican food.
Okay, Kevin.
You know what's weird? The mom with the bad Jamaican accent, she was in an episode of The Good Place as well.
She knew it was her son or something like that.
And that's how I knew the accent had to be fake, because she spoke with a U.S. accent like a normal person. They could have made the same choice.
The casting sheet for this episode is really weird. So who's the actor playing Chad, the writing student who accidentally lets Goren and Eames into the salon at the end?
They followed me in. They have badges.
That's Zach Robitus. You've seen him in Sorry for Your Loss and Friends from College, if you've seen him at all. He just finished a season-long run on SVU as Peter Flynn, the father of kidnapped girl Maddie Flynn, who Benson has been obsessing over.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Benson.
Thank God the writer's strike put an end to that one.
That stupid storyline, man, sucked. That storyline sucked.
His late wife was Marnie Schillenberg, who played Allison on As the World Turns.
Okay.
No, he didn't. That wasn't one of your shows? Okay.
No, Astro World Turns wasn't one of my shows.
Okay. Lastly, who's playing Detour Heath?
What happened to me was payback for stealing someone's stash.
You robbed somebody.
I was making a pickup when I heard shots. I saw my connection and some fool, both dead. All this weed on the table, nobody around.
No, everyone look at each other. That's Al Thompson. He was also in Walk to Remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How prestigious of him.
Yeah, he's had small roles in Entangled with You, Lenox Avenue, and Lyle Crocodile.
What is that?
But you don't know Lyle Crocodile?
No.
Marcia, you've got a young one at home. Have you been watching Lyle Crocodile?
We're literally watching When Doves Cry. Before night.
All right. Prince is a great choice as well. But my favorite film of his is a short feature, and it's called Black People Hate Me and They Hate My Glasses.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I am also the star of the sequel, which is Black People Hate Me, White People Are Suspicious of Me, Asian People Find Me Offensive, and There's No Love Lost with Puerto Ricans.
The Donald Trump story.
Okay, so Detour explains what happened in the opening scene that we saw and why he got beat up. He says that he went to do a pickup, saw his two connections get murdered, and then ran off with all the pot. And you know what they never ask? So who shot them?
Yeah, everyone's like, well, fuck these guys. They didn't work in publishing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, because they wouldn't go, quote, slumming onto that case, would they? No.
Okay.
Only major cases.
I don't even ask him, are you sure you didn't shoot them? Not to be suspicious.
Can we also talk about how passive aggressive and sassy the Brooklyn detective is?
Yes.
Looks like a push-in. But what do I know after working only 50 homicides?
Dude, calm down. Maybe they don't have to do your work for you. Like, he's like, well, I've done 50 murders. That's not good. Maybe it's, time to take some time off, some self-care. He is so pissed. I was like,
when this guy finds out how much reading was involved to solve this case, he is so thankful he gave this up. Yeah. That's when they go to talk to TJ Hawkins, this author. Eames had read his book, which is called Throat Full of Glass, about his time.
Excuse me?
Yeah, great one. It's about his time in a prison in Yemen, which kind of went by, a Yemenis jail or whatever it was. It went by really fast. But he's holding a book signing.
Did you mean Yemeni?
Yemeni? I don't know. Yemeni? I don't know, right? So he's holding a book signing in the middle of the workday.
Yes.
And wondering why the crowd is so thin.
Yes, I do most of my book signings at 1:15 on a Wednesday. What is happening? Throat Full of Glass? I'm surprised the censors allowed that. I don't even know what that would mean, but it sounds kind of gross.
It sounds dirty.
The names of the fake books in this, again, are really great. But to back up his dangerous persona, he flips out when Goren and Eames try to speak to him.
He's a piece of work.
Paparazzi swarming outside. TJ did this for the publicity.
And he got it. You made Ulens.
You lens. Not
it's
you
like
too.
Face Place. It's
Yes. Face Union.
Face Union. The social media accounts on this show, like I could watch an entire hour of that and it would be better than what we saw in this episode.
You lens. The Winklevoss twins are like, not again. Got ripped off. So Sage has this history of sexual harassment of female authors where he drives them home and puts the moves on them. And then somehow, knowing this is enough for a judge to sign a warrant to search his car in a murder case.
So Eames is trying to explain to Ross that this guy, this agent, was like lecherous.
I found Gareth Sage stories all over a message board devoted to bad bosses.
You just happened to be looking there.
He forced a woman to lick up coffee she spilled on his desk.
He's a successful, powerful agent, and he's hard on his assistants. You need a message board for that?
He's like, women, they be saying stuff. Like, there is this complete and total dismissal of what a, creep this guy is. And then Eames,
the detail, Marcia, was that the employee spilled some coffee on his desk, and he made her lick it up. And Ross is like, well, what you gonna do?
Bitches, am I right?
Yeah.
No one wants to work anymore. It was so weird. Like, everything she was like, yeah, this guy's kind of messed up. And then at one point, Eames pulls up his wedding announcement and it's like some blonde woman. And then he shows the picture of Victoria Dillard and is like,
oh, no.
He has another type, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What? Calm down, everyone. Calm down.
So they arrest him on the evidence that they find there, which is a powder compact for black skin and a strand of hair from synthetic hair extensions. Both things that you could purchase at Walgreens.
Anywhere. In New York City, in every Dwayne Reed. Like, what legal system? What search?
Yeah,
sure.
They only know one black person in this case. So it had to belong to her.
So Kira is the only black woman who's ever had hair extensions. If de facto, you are the murderer.
So when they take this evidence to the lab, they're like, this extension is made out of acrylic. What did the DNA report said? Your victim is a bathroom fixture. Now let's take a look
at our portfolio on Acorns.
Oh, Acorns.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, so you don't need to have an expert in investing. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money. So we've been using Acorns for quite some time.
More than a year.
What is Acorns?
Acorns is an app that allows you to automatically deposit roundups from your purchases and additional money automatically every week. It just goes into your investment portfolio and you don't have to do a thing except watch that money grow. It's a great opportunity for your money to grow. Basically, what you do is you set up your investing. So you get this here.
Yeah.
This shows you everything that I've invested in my investment account, everything I've invested in my SEP IRA, which also allows me to do.
And if I tap on the investment, it would bring down... Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I like how in the app you can select what level of risk you want to take.
And depending on your investment goals, that's how you pick that. But you know what I really love, Kevin?
What's that?
Acorns has all these partnerships with places to shop where a little thing will pop up and say there's an offer to get 2% of this purchase deposited into your Acorns account. And I just started using that a few months ago. And look at how much I've already had deposited just because of shopping at places I was going to shop anyway.
Oh, yeah. All these major retailers here. This one's like 2%. This one's like $5.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This travel site is 3%.
So head to acorns.com/stories. And download the Acorns app and start saving and investing for your future today.
Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 2 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/stories.
Prepare for the crime and investigation event of the new year with the premiere of 2 groundbreaking new series on A&E. Each week, hit the streets of the Big Easy with a dedicated team of detectives as they search for answers and justice in the gripping new series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. Then, join an elite Mexican task force in their pursuit of American fugitives hiding south of the border in Fugitive Hunters Mexico. Homicide Squad New Orleans, new episode tomorrow at 9, followed by a new Fugitive Hunters Mexico at 10, part of a crime and investigation event only on A&E. Watch now on the A&E app.
All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. Under interrogation, book agent Gareth Sage denies killing Kira Danforth.
Kira rejected you, and you were afraid that she'd talk. You came back to make sure that she wouldn't?
No. Kira ran up to get her novel. Now, I can't afford mixed messages, so I waited in my car. When I realized where I was, in my Jag, in the hood. So I set my GPS for civilization and I got the hell out.
The detectives find Kira's missing manuscript on her work computer. The unpublished work is based on Detour's life of crime and punishment and reads suspiciously like Shill's upcoming novel. Goren accuses Shill of plagiarism, and he cries like the little boomer bitch he is. And then he tells Hawkins he's not as tough as his book, and he cries like the little millennial bitch he is. Eames discovers that despite what he's been publishing, Hawkins never served time in prison in Yemen. Sage says Kira was supposed to review Hawkins' new novel for The Times, but died before she could turn it in. Then, a ballistic report links the murder weapon to a handgun used in a 1967 race riot. The shooter was the man Shill wrote about in the novel that made his career. Always went for a big denouement. Goren and Eames crash Shill's writing salon. Bobby says only someone with Shill's juice could get an unknown writer like Kira the assignment of writing for The Times. But she didn't write a book review. She figured it all out and was about to expose Hawkins and Shill as frauds. Hawkins turns on his mentor, revealing Shill told him what Kira was up to, plied him with cocaine, gave him the handgun from his novel, and told him to take her out. Hawkins is arrested for murder. Shill goes down for conspiracy. Okay, just to note, we're in season 7 of Criminal Intent. In the next episode, we'll see Goren go undercover in a prison psych ward, not tell anybody about it, and then gets himself suspended.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this was the first season in which Criminal Intent moved to the USA Network. Mm-hmm. With episodes later appearing on NBC. This was sort of like, this saved the show, gave it another 4 years to get it off NBC, but keep it going. This was also the year of the writer's strike, so episode 10 ran on December 13th, and episode 11 ran on June 8th.
Wow. We had TV in the summer that year. I remember that.
TV in the summer. So suspicion of Shill grows when we see him feeding a stack of manuscript pages into the fire instead of, I don't know, deleting a file.
Computers had been invented at this point.
Yeah. Kira didn't write this on a typewriter, for fuck's sake. You know, it's like...
Isn't he doing like the evil guy laugh as he's doing it too? Like he's just like the mustache twist.
Okay, is that his apartment?
Yes.
This is the part I do not understand.
Why is he so rich? Why does he have to write anything ever again, right?
So they say his last 6 novels tanked. What kind of contract was he in? Did the devil co-sign it? And then they talk about how he makes money on the lecture circuit other than Hudson University, who has a failed 6-time writer popping in for major lectures. What they should have just done is do a little exposition to say he's one of these old money writer types. And then they locked it up.
It would have made sense. But then there's no stakes because he just can fall back on his money, right? Instead, he really does have to go to Hudson.
We are Hudson, where the bikers go to school.
This salon is, can I also, when they say salon like that, I wanted to die. I went to an event once and the woman hosting referred to her event in that way. And I was like, oh, excuse me while I vomit all over.
I didn't realize I was being invited into a douche canoe.
He's a guy who also uses the phrase au contraire.
I thought it was just happy hour. But just the whole setup about the wealth of it, again, this could have been a searing critique of literary culture and of publishing, but it's like they always miss the point.
Yeah.
And so now we've got this guy whose last book sold 1,000 copies. And
No. He said it sold less than 1,000 copies, and it should be fewer than 1,000 copies. And that's why I know you suck at English composition.
Well, the fewer than 1,000 copies. And then I was like, as someone who has published in academic publishing, I was like, hey, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. So Kira's manuscript has been missing. They recover it, and it corresponds pretty much with Shill's, the galleys for Shill's upcoming book called Token. Anvil drop there, right? So Eames says that they found the manuscript on her office computer because she'd been writing it at work, like every author does. We're not doing this on our own time.
In a file called Budgets.
Also, I love this idea that TJ's book will only be reviewed in one newspaper.
That's right.
If he's a famous author, everyone's reviewing his book around the same time. Again, I guess it doesn't matter, but it kind of does.
He would have been on Fresh Air like twice by this point.
He's an American Delinquent. I mean, if his first book was Throat Full of Glass, the next one would be like Nose Full of Razor Blades or something like
that. Anus full of ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Goren tries to rattle Hawkins by visiting him while he's kickboxing at a gym. And so he holds the body bag and kind of dares Hawkins to take a shot. And so to up the ante, Goren takes his badge off and hands it to Eames.
That's it? That's what you have? That's all he's got? Okay, maybe this will make it easy for you. Look.
Oh, Bobby.
Still has his gun.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
And his grizzled, middle-aged man strength. Also, when have police officers been that diligent to remove their badges when they're going to beat someone up? I was like, what was that about?
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Yeah.
So mirroring the opening shot of the episode, the camera pans in or tilts up from a chessboard. Very fancy one this time. And because, Shill is there with all of his pawns and they're talking about their shitty writing.
I wanted to open with something memorable.
Well, my dear, two things. First, it wasn't memorable. It was like Joyce Carol Oates on barbiturates.
And that's when Goren and Eames enter for their classic imputation at the end. They try to convince Hawkins the real reason Shill made him kill Kara was because he plagiarized her book. And so what he does is he hands Hawkins the manuscript.
He stole her voice and her life. He put his name on it.
Oh. You're lying.
And then he just throws it all in the air. And then out of nowhere, Goren produces a second copy.
Because copy machines had been invented by this time.
But he has a second one behind his back. Like a
keeping
magician with the flowers.
Instead of his drop gun in the back, he's got a second manuscript to pull out.
No,
just
read it. No, read it.
Right now. Well, can I just say, this episode should have been called Kira's Worst Day Ever. She gets beaten up by drug dealers.
Yeah.
She gets murdered. And later, when they're interviewing Detour about it, and they were like, she wrote a little bit about your life. He was like, I don't know if I'm down with that. Bro, your girlfriend's dead. You know what I mean? Just accept it. He's like, oh man, that was real fucked up. She wrote about me. It's like, well, she is dead, so maybe you should be a little less grumpy about that.
But this is the same man that when he saw her with another man who was clearly a professional relationship, went out immediately and slept with, quote, a hood rat.
I noted.
A hood rat. Oh,
Can I just tell you, I'm like, are they serious with this?
They are serious with this.
Between that and Throat Full of Glass, I feel like the religious right should have come after this episode.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it.
But all the papers that from the manuscript that he threw in the air, I feel like Goren's OCD was such that he'd have to go and pick up all the pages and put them back in order, right?
Yep.
So the handgun that they found at the crime scene ends up being the one used by Lamar Stiles to shoot a cop in 1967. And then Shill met Lamar in prison, taught him how to read, and then he wrote his one big famous novel, which is called White Flight, Black Hate.
What? Who put that through marketing?
The guy who said Token and Throat Full of Glass would be the great names for books in this episode.
White Flight, Black Hate.
Yeah.
So he held on to a piece of evidence in a murder.
How did he get it? The guy was in prison.
The guy was already in prison.
Well, I mean, so either the guy was convicted with no evidence, believable, and then he held a gun for 40 years. Are we supposed to get a sense that this man kind of gets off on this? Because there are moments where I'm like, are he and TJ doing it?
Right.
What is going on?
That weird shot that was just a close-up of his penis next to TJ's face as he was handing him a drink, and he was like,
glass.
You want this, right? It was so weird. I thought that was going there. I thought.
You're right. You're right about the guy in prison, somehow getting the gun to Shill. Why would he do that? He's like, I wouldn't want the cops to find this gun and connect me to a murder I've already been convicted of.
No.
I could get into a lot of trouble.
He was like, listen, I hear you were a protest mime. I think you know.
I think you will do this. Can you pretend to put a box in front of you?
Just the finger gun was not enough to really.
Prepare for the crime and investigation event of the new year with the premiere of A&E's gripping new series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. Each week, hit the streets of the Big Easy with a dedicated team of detectives as they investigate some of the most harrowing homicides in a never-ending fight to keep their city safe. Join them in the relentless pursuit of justice in a new episode of Homicide Squad New Orleans tomorrow at 9. Part of a crime and investigation event only on A&E. Watch now on the A&E app.
Nothing brings us together like Eggland's Best Eggs. Always so fresh and delicious, plus superior nutrition like 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.
This cold and flu season, Instacart is here to help deliver all of your sick day essentials. Whether you're in prevention mode and need vitamins, hand sanitizer, and that lemon tea your Nana swears by, or you're in healing mode and need medicine, soup, and a lot more tissues. Simply download the Instacart app to get sick day supplies that reinvigorate or relieve delivered in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Excludes restaurant orders. Service fees and terms apply.
All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for a Rip from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Rip from the Headlines.
Among the literary scandals that inspired this episode is that of J.T. LeRoy. In 2000, Laura Albert published 2 novels under LeRoy's name. The work was marketed as semi-autobiographical, written by a teen lad growing up amongst prostitutes. Subsequent books delved into LeRoy's troubled life and received critical acclaim. To keep up the ruse, the 34-year-old Albert drafted a teenage relative to attend book signings as J.T. LeRoy. Savannah Knoop wore wigs and dark sunglasses at public appearances, which only added to the character's mystique. Albert kept up the subterfuge for 6 years before reports at the New York Times exposed the deception. Albert was sued by the film company that optioned the rights to her novels. She retreated from public view for a decade before taking part in a documentary about the controversy. The film reignited her career and renewed interest in her books. Today, Laura Albert's J.T. LeRoy novels are appreciated for their gritty prose, but as pure works of fiction.
Now, I know that there's a lot of parallels, probably more parallels to the James Fry story than J.T. LeRoy. But as I've said many times, the internet fucked me. And I would have...
Well, no, this is good.
It's
this
a good
is
one.
actually
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Kevin, I'm confused by your process. When you do a salon on these episodes, how do you determine what the Rip from the Headlines is?
Oh, wait till you find out.
Oh, there's a really great wiki that I've been using for 10 years where somebody comes along and identifies that. And then recently, people have been going in, and if it's a thing about a bank robbery, they list 20 fucking bank robberies that have nothing to do
with the what's got it.
It is among the literary things, as Cy said.
Well, yeah, because
I would have had Cy redo it, but again, he's on vacation in North Africa, and I'm not going to interrupt that for my mess up.
Isn't there also a call out to Stephen Glass in this whole episode?
This is
Glass, yeah.
I think this episode is interesting because there's so many scammers in publishing. There's so many sexual harassers. There's so much racism that it could be a number of things. And what's interesting is, so I thought it was the, James Fry one, which it also is in a sense. But what's interesting about James Fry, so I remember watching live the episode of Oprah where she puts her foot right in his ass about this.
Yeah.
But then years later, she reflected and said that wasn't her best moment, that she shouldn't have humiliated him. And I was like,
and he ended up being fine, kind of, yeah.
He's fine.
Scammers are fine, but
he's actually doing video games
Stephen
today.
Glass is a lawyer now.
I know. And Jason Blair has a podcast. Everyone's fine, but there was, the one thing that I will say,
all the men are fine.
Yeah.
Well, the Laura Albert thing really bothers me because it wasn't that J.T. LeRoy had these gritty stories. J.T. LeRoy also was supposed to be HIV positive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a whole thing about outpouring of support and concern about JT's health. But there's something about then turning the individual author into a person that's supposed to galvanize support and care that feels really creepy because that JT LeRoy situation was really gross.
I mean, some famous writers do create new works under a pseudonym, like Stephen King had Richard Bachman, J.K. Rowling, everybody's favorite transphobe. Agatha Christie wrote romance novels under a different name.
Also racist.
Also, okay. But in Albert's case, right, what she did was not a literary crime, right? We're offended because when they do this, like the offending people do it because they are largely people of privilege, trying to fool us into believing that they're actually a marginalized person who earned their success, right? That they're self-made, that they weren't born on third base, they hit a triple.
Yeah.
But there is this like trope in literature about like how hard it is to be an outsider and to like find your way in that I think is both compelling, but I think that what happens in terms of like what gets famous, it's always these real extreme stories, right? In many ways, like I'm Akira. I came from a working class background. I went to good schools and became very successful. Like not a lot of drama. Like sometimes that's hard, but like not impossible. And so I think that, some of these literary hoaxes are people who think that this is the only way to contribute is a story of woe instead of like accepting that they're kind of shitty writers. Like go to more workshops, like go to more salons.
Go to more salons.
You would maybe improve your writing.
Okay, so this point was made by Lena Dunham, the self-proclaimed voice of her generation.
Oh, Jesus.
Referring to J.T. LeRoy, says this person, and Albert, this person isn't who they claim to be, but they still wrote this book that captured our imagination. So then why does the identity of the author even matter when you're reading fiction and engaging with it in a personal way? Is she right? Should it change the way we regard the art?
I have no problem with a person writing a piece of fiction that might be from a different kind of perspective than they come from. That's fine.
Like Geraldine Brooks, you mean? Like that kind of thing?
But paying somebody to dress up like this fake author and go to fashion shows,
It's the scamming, but also when you watch that documentary with Laura Albert and she explains why she did this is not someone who was like, I really wanted to like decolonialize publishing. It was like, no one liked me. I wasn't cool. And this was a way, but like the fake therapy sessions, like it's when it no longer exists in the page and it starts to engage people in a way that is so irresponsible and so manipulative is when I have a real problem. Like talented writers can write a lot of different types of people, but I think the reason why it fails so much is we live in a world where a lot of people don't have authentic relationships with people who are different than them. And they also don't know how to respectfully engage. And so it just comes out in the writing. And so, like I can't think of, there are a lot of writers who are white, who only write about white people and they do it really well. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's when they try to do something different and then try to make cosplay something that they're not, that it starts to really reveal the lack of talent that a lot of people have.
So Laura Albert has her own webpage under which is the official J.T. LeRoy webpage. And among the items there that she autographed as J.T. LeRoy, they're up for sale, is an autographed raccoon penis bone.
The raccoon penis bone, yes.
Yeah, right? It's kind of like a sexual amulet. It's shaped like an S. You wear it around your neck. You massage the prostate with it, just like all the stuff you can get at Claire's or Forever 21.
I think it's a reference to the book Sarah or something.
Yes, it is. She used that as a sexual implement that apparently
you guys know
story
a lot
lives
about this.
This is one of my rabbit holes. I am obsessed with scammers because I'm like afraid if I take like 10 cents too much from the Safeway change, I'm like, oh, I got to drive back and give it back. People who have the just kind of like the gumption to do it. But I'm always fascinated by people who then involve other people. Like, how do you pitch a scam to another person?
Yes.
I got a great idea.
Yes.
So Albert referred to J.T. LeRoy as a person who does not exist, but does live, just like Bugs Bunny. But only one of those can drop a literal anvil on your head. Or turn to a raccoon and say, "What's up, Dick?" That is going to do it for us. We want to thank our guest, Dr. Marcia Chatelain. Marcia, where can our listeners follow you online?
I'm on my last days of Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram for now. Dr. M. Chatelain.
Yes, and Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me just about everywhere at Reb Lavoie.
You can find us at Law & Order Pod on X and and Blue Sky. Follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast, or like and subscribe on YouTube and TikTok. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Go to lawandorderpodcast.com, sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in Studio C and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.
Prepare for the crime and investigation event of the new year with the premiere of A&E's gripping new series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. Each week, hit the streets of the Big Easy with a dedicated team of detectives as they investigate some of the most harrowing homicides in a never-ending fight to keep their city safe. Join them in the relentless pursuit of justice in a new episode of Homicide Squad New Orleans tomorrow at 9. Part of a crime and investigation event only on A&E. Watch now on the A&E app.
Nothing brings us together like Eggland's Best Eggs. Always so fresh and delicious. Plus superior nutrition like 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.